All right, we got an 06 Equinox here. Customer complaining of a check engine light illuminated and a hard starting condition when the vehicle's warm. Common problems associated with this are rear PCV vent side tube disconnected at the grommet under the distributorless ignition coil pack. But these also have problems with vacuum leaks at the PCV elbow at the front valve cover. Also, you want to check the air intake duct, and then there's common problems with the mass airflow sensors not reading properly. This tip's going to apply to any vehicle where you're experiencing a check engine light and a stored code P0171 indicating a lean condition on the fuel trim values of the vehicle. So basically that code P0171 is going to set when the computer recognizes that the fuel trim values have been high, meaning that it has to adapt and add extra fuel over a period of time, thinking that the system is lean. However, in this case, like I've mentioned, vacuum leaks or even intake manifold leaks, a lot of Toyota Matrix, Corolla, those engines have a lot of intake manifold gasket vacuum leaks that attribute to this type of problem. So air entering after the mass airflow sensor, unmetered air entering the engine, creating actually a lean condition, but the mass airflow sensor is not metering all that air, so there's a problem there as well. So anyway, part of diagnosing this problem is we always check the fuel trim values. We take a close look at the O2 sensor operation, and we do a physical check for any type of vacuum leaks. If we suspect a vacuum leak, we can spray a little carb cleaner around the intake and watch those fuel trim values. If they jump up, we know we've got some issues there. But in this case, I thought I would show you a quick tip about diagnosing this. And basically, there's the problem right there, hard starting when warm. But basically, that's an indication that the vehicle is running rich and it's kind of flooded on a hot restart scenario. When it's cold, it can handle a more rich mixture, but once it's warm and it's been running rich for a period of time, those plugs are going to be fuel fouled and delay starting is going to occur. So that's the first indicator of a problem. Then of course the code that existed, but I'm going to show you a few quick tips that might help you diagnose these problems in the future. If you do have access to a scan tool and the ability to monitor fuel trim values as well as the oxygen sensor voltages, then get on in there, check your fuel trim values at idle. I'm measuring 0 here. So let's take a look at it when we raise the RPMs. Definitely goes positive at cruising speed. And it's probably best to do this driving down the highway, 55, cruising speed. But if you see your long-term fuel trims climbing steadily higher under load, and then at idle, returning to normal state, then suspect mass airflow issues causing that. If it was a vacuum leak, we'd see kind of the opposite of that. Higher fuel trim values at idle and lower at cruising speed. Also take a look at these heated O2 sensor readings. Looking at the front and rear, we've got normal switching here on the front O2. One thing to note, if your fuel trims seem high all the time, whether it's at idle or cruising speed, you want to check for the existence of E85 in the fuel. And also, if you have high fuel trims all the time, that can be caused by low fuel pressure, clogged or dirty fuel injectors as well. So those are things to look at if that's the case. Take a close look at the PCV supply side from the valve, the front valve cover on these Equinox vehicles to the top of the intake. And then also on the back side, there's the vent side of the PCV connecting from the side at the air cleaner intake behind there. And then it wraps around and actually ends up underneath the DIS distributor's ignition coil pack with a little plastic line connecting underneath that coil pack. You can just see it if you look down on the far side of the under the valve cover, under the coil pack next to the valve cover. You can see that connector there. Just make sure that hose is connected fully into the rubber grommet at the valve cover. Check all your air intake ducts and just make sure you don't have any leakage on the intake side of things here. You also want to take a very close look at the bellows on the intake air duct. Make sure that they're seated properly. It's clamped all the way around. Sometimes you can't see from underneath. The bellows get pushed back and it doesn't seal, or there's a crack behind the bellows and it's allowing air in here. That's a very important thing as well. Okay, in this case I'm confident that the mass airflow sensor is at fault, and I'm going to remove it and replace the sensor element itself. And the easiest way of doing that in this case is going to be to remove the air cleaner housing, remove the electrical connector at the mass airflow, and disconnect the hose clamp at the air intake duct hose, and just pull this entire air cleaner lid off. I'll take this over to the bench. I'm using the Delphi original equipment replacement part on this. I would highly recommend that. It's the same part for Kias and Toyotas and Chevrolets, and now you can get these available aftermarket at a pretty decent price. So you want to make sure and don't touch the element itself. Be real careful with that, it's fragile. And take the little key here to release the connector on this on the old unit. To get it out, you just need to insert it in this slot and depress it. And there we go. Now we just reinstall the system. Good time to check the air filter. Make sure that's clean. This one looks good. Get your hose attached properly. reconnect the electrical connector. That's it. Okay, we've made our repairs, and I went ahead and cleared the, or reset the fuel trims. And let's go ahead and monitor our data and see where we're at here. Looks like we're at -5 long term. Zeroed right out. Excellent. All right. Anyway, I could have just went ahead and cleaned the mass airflow and then went back and rechecked my data, and if that cleared it up, that would have been a good fix. But given the mileage and the commonality of these sensors, I went ahead and just did it, and obviously it's cured. Funny thing is, I've got a Kia Sedona here in the other bay, and it's got the code P0101, and it ended up being a bad math, and it's exact same part number for that car. So we got a double whammy here. Pretty common deal, and luckily they got a few of these on the shelf, so about $100 your cost when you get them aftermarket from Advanced Auto Parts. Will have them. I believe Napa should have it too. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the likes and subscriptions, and we will catch you next time. Have a good one.